a little more with Sweet Clara and the Freedom Quilt.
Yay! Actually, you just.
Okay. So yesterday, remember, we did some traits. We did Clara and we did Aunt Rachel. Okay. So we said at the beginning of the story, Clara was sad and unhappy. Angelo, you need to pay attention, not play with your shoes. Okay. And we did some character traits of Aunt Rachel. All right. So we said Clara was sad and unhappy. She was relieved when she gets to be the seamstress, and she's nervous. Aunt Rachel was kind. She was nice. She was happy when they got her the job, and she was generous because she helped her. So today we're going to read some more of the story. We can come up with some more character traits about Clara or Aunt Rachel if we want, or we can come up in addition with character traits about other characters. What is it?
Can we read the whole story so we know?
You've heard the story. If you want here, I'm sorry, I don't know that we're going to have time to get through the whole story today. Okay. So, I changed from a field hand to a seamstress. Since the sewing room was right off the kitchen, Aunt Rachel and I were near Cook and the helpers. There was always lots of bustle and company in the kitchen. I was hearing about all kinds of new places and things. I listened so hard it felt like my ears must be growing right out of my head and getting big with listening. Okay, remember that's the character trait I put in my book.
Yeah.
Okay. One day, 2 white men came to see the master. The drivers went into the kitchen to talk to Cook. There had been too many runaways last summer, one of the drivers said. They'd go around asking all the masters in the county to join the patter rollers. Crazy running away, muttered Cook as she beat up some batter. Where you gonna go, 'cept get lost in the swamp? Dunno, said the other, but I hear we ain't that far from the Ohio River. Once you get that far, the Underground Railroad will carry you across. That's right, agreed the first. The railroad will get you all the way to Canada. Then you free forever. Cook snorted. If it be as easy as you two let on, more would have gone. One of the men replied in a quiet voice, It'd be easy if you could get a map. Walking back from the big house that evening, I asked Aunt Rachel about what I'd heard. Where's Canada, and what's the Underground Railroad? See there, Aunt Rachel pointed. That's the North Star. Under that star, far up north, is Canada. The Underground Railroad is people who've been helping folks get there, secret-like. She looked at me hard. But don't you start thinking about it. You run away and get caught, you be beaten. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Next day I asked Cook, those 2 men that was here yesterday, they was talking about a map. What's a map? Just a picture of the land, that's all. Whatever's on the ground, a map can have it. Sunday, I went to my favorite place on a little hill and looked out at the people's cabins and fields. I took a stick and started making pictures in the dirt of all I could see. But how could I make a picture of things far away that I couldn't see? And how could I make a map that wouldn't be washed away by the rain? A map that would show the way to freedom. Then one day I was sewing a patch on a pretty blue blanket. The patch looked just the same shape as the cow pond near the cabins. The little stitches looked like a path going all around it. Here it was, a picture that wouldn't wash away. A map. So what's some character traits that we've heard so far? Tell me something especially about Clara. Amir?
Clara is curious because she asked, what's the map? And she asked something else. Yeah, she exactly. What's the map and what's the Underground Railroad?
Okay.
He took exactly what I was going to say.
Map?
Okay, good. That's some good text evidence. What else could we say about Clara? What's another trait of Clara? Isn't?
I'm still kind of curious because she asked her Aunt Rachel,
Sorry.
where's Canada?
Okay, so that is part of curious. I know, this always gets mad at me. Yes, that could be part of curious. What other traits does Clara have, though? There's definitely one where she's working in thinking about the map. Marcellus? What's another trait of Clara?
She said that do not run away for she gonna get beat.
Okay, that's Aunt Rachel. So what kind of a trait would that be? If Aunt Rachel told her not to run away because she didn't want her to get beat. Amir? Not be rude. No,
No word.
but oh, I heard over here. Okay, careful. Does anybody know the word for careful? Nehemiah?
Protective.
Okay, that was not the word I was thinking of, but that would totally work. I was thinking of cautious, but protective totally works. Okay, protective because, okay, our evidence is in the text. She warns Clara not to run away so she won't get beaten. Good. Any other character traits we can think of from what we read? What about Clara? What does Clara come up with or think of? Andy?
Emma.
Okay, so she thinks of how to take it from drawing it on the ground to sewing it. What would we call that? What kind of a trait is that, do you think? Amir?
Creative.
Creative. I would say creative for sure. Okay. Okay. Creative. So our evidence is that Clara figures. Thank you for not laughing at my typing today. Figures out. Marcellus, that's rude. How to sew a map. Anything else? Any other character traits of Aunt Rachel or Clara? Okay, I'll read another page or two, okay, and then we're going to do another character traits activity. Okay. So I started the quilt. When you sew in, no matter how careful you be, little scraps of cloth always be left after you cut out a dress or a pillowcase. So when my ears kept listening and my hands kept sewing, I began to squirrel away these bits of cloth. When we was off work, I went to visit people in the quarters. I started asking what fields was where. Then I started piecing the scraps of cloth with the scraps of things I was learning. Aunt Rachel says, "Sweet Clara, what kind of pattern you making in that quilt? Ain't no pattern I ever seen." "I don't know, Aunt Rachel, I'm just patching it together as I go." She looked at me long, but she just nodded. There was a buzzing in the quarters one summer evening. I saw the patter rollers and I knew someone had run away. It was young Jack, but 5 days later they caught him. That next Sunday I went to see him and we walked to the top of the little hill. He didn't smile the way he used to. I took a stick and began to draw in the dirt. I drew a little square for Big House, a line of boxes for the cabins of the quarters, and some bigger squares for the fields east of Big House. I drew as much as I'd pieced together. Jack sat beside me, not saying anything, not even looking at first. Then he started seeing what I was doing. I handed the stick to him. I hear him catch his breath up quick. Then he began to draw. So what's another trait we could come up with for Clara based on this? Zoe?
I got one for Rachel.
Okay.
Yeah, she's helpful because she makes food.
Okay. What else does she do? Aunt Rachel, how is she helpful? There's another way she's helpful. Sophie?
Or Clara to sew and not with the
Okay. Camilla, does she tell anybody what Clara's doing? Does Aunt Rachel know what Clara's doing? Okay. Yeah. Because she gives her a long look, but she doesn't say anything. So yeah, Aunt Rachel knows what Clara's doing, but she doesn't tell on her, does she? Okay, and she helps her by getting her cloth. So Aunt Rachel's helpful because she doesn't tell anyone what Clara is doing. Let's try and come up with one more trait for Clara. Emma,
Kind.
how is she kind?
She's kind.
Gotta have text evidence for it. Andy, can you help him out? What's a trait for Claire?
She's helpful.
No, kind and helpful are different. And we have to have text evidence. You gotta tell me something the story says to support why you think somebody is the way they are. Patience?
Because she's helping others who escape too.
But that's at the end of the story. Has she helped anybody escape yet?
No.
Not yet. Amir?
She's kind because she let Jack draw too.
So she made Jack feel included. Okay, there you go. After he runs away, right? Sophie,
She's helpful
how?
because when she's making her quill, and I remember that she made the quill so that everybody, so people can look at it and they go this too.
Okay, so even though we haven't finished the story this time, we could say she's helpful because we know she leaves the quilt behind for other slaves. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is leave this up on the board, and I'm going to have you guys go back to your seats, and we are going to do our activity that goes with this, okay?